Hey there, what's up? Tim Werner here. Another episode of Tim's IT Straight Talk. This one is about getting your first break in the IT industry. I'm a huge proponent of this idea. Over my 25 years or so in the industry, I've had the privilege of helping a lot of people come into IT, either straight out of high school or college, or leaving the military, or from another industry. And also, I've helped people within IT move laterally to another field of endeavor. And ultimately, it all starts with your first break. For me, I've told this story elsewhere in my YouTube channel, it was a case where I just by happenstance was working at a mom and pop computer shop doing bench repair and stuff. And I was in a low point in my life because I had thought I was going to medical school, and that didn't pan out. And I earned a master's degree in science education, but I'm really not that great at hard science. And at the time, I wasn't really equipped to teach kids. And it just happened that a guy came in with his computer to get fixed, and we started chatting. And the next thing you know, Jim said to me, "Sounds like with your background being a tech guy and having education as your background, you'd be a good fit to be an applications trainer." And so my first break, my first real industry job was at Executrain in Syracuse, New York in 1997. And it's been roses ever since, really, it has. So what I counsel people in at this point is if you're moving into IT from another industry, or regardless of the specifics, you don't have any real industry experience yet. So there's a chicken and an egg problem of when you're looking for your first job in IT, it says you need experience. Now you need a job to get experience, and you need experience to get a job. So at first it seems like a dilemma or a conundrum, whatever term you want to use for it. So this can be answered by applying professional networking techniques. And again, I talk about that elsewhere in my YouTube channel. That old saw that sometimes it isn't so much what you know, but who you know. Really, that's just a fact of life. I mean, when my mom told me when I was a boy, "Timmy, whoever said life was fair," I didn't take that as a pessimistic response. I took it as a truism, and I still live by that today. So if you know somebody who's in a job role that you have your eye on, I would strongly recommend you tell that person of your intent to get into the industry and ask if they might be able to help expedite your candidacy. It's just the way it works. I'm not advocating you're doing anything dishonest or unethical as such. It's just taking advantage of as many opportunities as you can find. You may find that through professional networking, you're able to short circuit what otherwise could be a long and almost impossible journey to get into that interview where you can prove your stuff. Or if you're new, I would strongly recommend that you demonstrate your eagerness, your willingness to learn, your open-mindedness. Because ultimately, that first break turns into your business that you wind up going to being willing to take a chance on you. You're going to be an unknown quantity because you're new, you're green, you're inexperienced, you don't have any background in this particular field. And the company needs to ask itself, does this person have the raw materials enough to where we feel justified in investing time, money, effort, and people into this person? And also, a common question, especially with IT, is how likely is this person to join us, stay for 2 months, and then take off? That's just a risk of doing business that it seems to me any business needs to embrace and understand. Again, I talk about that elsewhere on my YouTube channel, that notion of the job marketplace now in the 21st century is dramatically different from that of my fathers and my grandfathers, where they stayed with one employer for their entire career. So I find that in IT, or the way I pose it when I'm mentoring or teaching, or just helping people get into the industry, is that the biggest hurdle is that first break. Because once you get that first break, once you find a company that's willing to invest in you and take a chance on you, from there it's all going to be downhill. If for no other reason, you're going to have real industry experience at that point. I'm not putting a timer on it, like 3 months, 6 months, a year, 10 years. I'm not talking about that. But upon your hire, any degree of experience you have is going to be better than what you had previously. And you'll find over the course of your IT career that your skills are cumulative. And again, I've mentioned this elsewhere in YouTube. Gosh, repeating myself a lot. Is that in order to be successful in IT anyway, you need to be comfortable in adopting an eternal student persona and understand that continuing education is not simply a compliance checkmark, it's a reality. And if you're not sharpening the tools, so to speak, you're going to fall behind in your current job and limit your future growth prospects as well. So I need you to be really clear and comfortable with that notion of continual improvement, continuous learning. And just like a snowball rolling downhill that gets bigger and bigger, so will your industry experience grow, such that when you're ready to move to your next position, you're at an immediately better position because you aren't coming in green. You aren't coming in with no experience. You have solid work experience, so that is an immediate and enormous step up. I would also recommend that you continue, even after you find that first employer who's willing to take a chance on you, that you continue to build your professional contacts and build your professional network, because the time will come where maybe you hit a glass ceiling in your current employer, or maybe it's just not the kind of work that you feel most led to do, or maybe your hand will be pushed if you're downsized or laid off, you see. So by continuing to buff up your professional network and staying active in the technical community, you now have a fallback plan. So you've got people and ideas and legs up, steps up, doors that are cracked open already that you can walk through if and when that time comes. And I'd be remiss not to also include the strong recommendation of your passing on the good fortune that you've been given by others. To me, the most, how can I use the right words here? I was going to say the most horrible example, but the chief anti-pattern to me as a professional person, what I don't want above anything else is to be the kind of person who does the kiss up, kick down, where they're really kind and generous to those whom they perceive above them on the proverbial ladder. But then as you get a hand up and go up the ladder, some people, hopefully it's not a majority, I know for a fact, and hopefully it's a very thinnest minority, will kick down below. So people are obviously going to be ahead of you on the proverbial ladder and behind you. But there is a minority of people who will accept the hand up and then kick down to reduce competition. Oh, I hope you don't do that. I can't imagine. I was going to say initially, I can't imagine that working out, but we know that it does work out. Read any book on sociopathy. So you can get very far doing kiss up, kick down. But is that really the legacy you want to leave as a professional, as in a human? I don't mean to get all moralistic. I'm really fired up about that particular subject because I am a teacher, so therefore I'm geared to pass on what I know. And the idea of information hoarding, that actually would be another good video. Let me write that down. Information hoarding. Yeah, and that's the notion of I'm going to be the only person here who knows this particular skill set, and I'm not going to share it because that makes me more valuable to the company. Well, guess what? It really doesn't. And you're as liable to be downsized as anybody else. And when you go, you're leaving the company in the lurch because you were the only one hoarding that knowledge. Now, again, if you're a kick up, kick down person, that may be just fine with burning that bridge. That's not how I operate. And I don't know. Take it or leave it. It's just my opinion after all. So I hope I made, as I normally say at the end of these videos, some semblance of sense in this notion of if you're already working in IT, ignore this video because you've already accomplished that biggest initial hurdle of having your first break. And I'd like to salute all the businesses that are willing to give newcomers their first breaks, despite the risks. Thanks. I'll see you again later.